Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Also to all our Greek participants. Καλησπέρα σε όλους. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ που είστε μαζί μας σήμερα. Thanks again for everybody from all over the world that they are watching us again. And I'm very happy today to have an amazing guest and a very good friend of mine, which is Dr. Florin Cofar. Florin, thank you very much for being with us today. It's a great honor for us to be with you, and we'll have a great opportunity to learn about your new stuff, about this amazing platform that you have created and what it's capable to do. So the wheel is on you.
Wait.
Yeah, you can talk.
Well, thank you very much for the. I was trying to unmute on my own. Thank you very much for the invitation. And yeah, it's nice to be with you. Like we discussed before, we're gonna make this pretty interactive. So feel free to, I like when you.
Sorry.
What I'm saying, just say, Florin, can you explain better here or that? I think it will just make the whole presentation better. So let me just share my screen.
Okay. Just before you start, people, whatever you would like to ask, you're more than free to ask on Q&A. It is open, so throw your questions on Q&A, so we will answer them in the end, all of them together, in order to run first the presentations that we have prepared for you. So, Florin, shall I start? Or you would like to? Okay, so
go ahead.
So let's begin. Here our topic is Smile Design and Collaborative Workspace in Digital Dentistry. So before we start talking about Smile Design and what you might believe that you will hear today, which I can assure you, it will be much higher than your expectations, the things that you will learn today. First of all, we need to understand how we can create and we can have proper data in order to make this very crucial task, which is the Smile design. So let's begin and go and see what is our system capable to do regarding the quality of the data and how it can offer us this kind of quality of data. So let's begin. Which settings affect the scan data density? Okay, let's start from this important parameter. The first thing that we'll talk about is the HD scanning mode, okay? And the other two parameters I will explain also is the file size and surface roughness, okay? So, what is doing each of these features? Let's begin. HD scanning mode. The HD scanning mode affects the data only on the scanning progress. It creates the triangles which are very small, and that's why it's called high definition. It does not affect the accuracy at all. The accuracy is depending on you, on the way that you scan, and of course, if you follow our scanning recommendations, strategies, etc. Okay, and most important thing, it creates, of course, higher size, okay, because you have higher detail. But again, I explained, it does not affect the accuracy. The accuracy is not affected from this. And the HD mode is affecting the data during the creation. Please keep that in mind, because I will explain for the other two features where they affect the data. But the HD mode is used during the scanning and affects only the creation, which will be very detailed. Excuse me, let me check. Can anybody hear us? Is the sound okay? Because I think we had an interruption. Is everybody hearing? So, okay. Does anybody have a sound? Because I received a notification. Okay, thank you. So, okay, let's proceed. How I can visualize, I visually indicate the HD mode. So let's say that I am going to use it. How I can see it in the screen. Let's say that you're a new user, okay, and you don't know. We visualize the HD mode using the model display mode. Okay, we have the texture on, which shows us the color. Okay, and when you deactivate the texture, it will be off. You see this darker brownish color that you see here on the right side of the slide. Okay, so when you would like to visualize the HD mode, you deactivate the texture on, texture off. Okay, and then you can see it. In which cases should I scan with HD mode? Okay, I will specifically explain you, but keep in mind that you can use it for everything. Okay, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't cause you any problem. It's not a barrier. Okay, you can use it for all the cases if you want. Doesn't matter. But keep in mind two things. First, the size of the file will be bigger, and the post-processing time, because the size is bigger, will be also slightly bigger. But of course, depends on the on your system, on your computer, and its resources, which is very, very crucial. Okay. First and most important, scan bodies, implant scan bodies. We always use HD mode, always on that. And of course, we scan always the custom or stock abutments with HD mode, because keep in mind that we can create also the margin line on the abutments. So make sure that for both options, for both cases, that you will scan with HD mode. Crown preparations. Okay, it's standard. I think everybody can notice that and can think about that. And of course, everything that needs and requires a margin line, like inlays, onlays, veneers, etc. For all of them, I highly recommend all of you to use HD mode. Let's go now to the file size and surface roughness. What these two settings are doing and where you can find them. First of all, you can find them in the settings of iScan. And let's see what they are doing. First of all, most important thing, the file size and the surface roughness affect the data only on the post-processing. They don't have any relationship at all with the scanning, at all. They affect only the post-processing. So if you activate them or adjust them, you always affect the data on the post-processing side. Okay. So the file size, what it's doing is that you can adjust the density of the data after the post-processing. Okay, so the triangles that we will create the final file, okay, will be small, medium, or big. It's up to you. So when you minimize the file size, you increase the triangles. So you minimize the resolution. We usually suggest that for orthodontic cases, okay, because most of the orthocads require a little lower resolution. So we require and we ask people that they are using our scanners with OrthoCAD to use small file size. Usually they minimize it on the left side. And let's go now to the surface roughness. What is the surface roughness is doing? It smooths the surface of the data. It does not affect the density, has no relationship at all, okay, but the higher the setting, the less smoothing you have, so you have more details and realistic details, as much as can the system provide you. But keep in mind also that it's really important the quality of your data to be proper, to be clean, and to be nice, okay? Because if you don't have clean and proper data, they might create more artifacts than usual. So please be careful with the quality of your data. See, here in the screen, you can see the difference and how by changing the file size affects the data, okay? Keep in mind that in this section here that we show, the roughness is set on 3 on the right side, but we just changed only the file size on 1 and on 3. Also, In the other side now, we have put the file size on 3 standard, and we have just adjust only the roughness on 1 and on 3. So you can realize how both of them, they affect the quality of the output data, of the final data, okay? So of course you can keep them both in the middle and you can use them for everything, but of course we advise you to test them and see the result, and according to your needs to adjust them properly. Just keep in mind that the quality of the data is very crucial, especially for the surface roughness. It's really crucial. Okay. Can I perform the same file settings as a T-Series user? So if somebody of you is having a T-scanner, a T-Series scanner, a lab scanner, he can do that. Yes, we have these options already in the Colab. So you just have to go in the settings of Colab and find these two options. The data density, which will be light or heavy, okay, and the optimize and refine the scan data. So apart from closing the holes that you can do if you activate the optimize and refine scan data, it is also performing a slight move, a smooth or optimization of the surface of the data, but very, very light and very smooth. And this is, as you can see, these two options that you have. Here in the Colab, we usually recommend to use the heavy for the data density in case you have very, 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 very tricky cases like implant bars that they require a lot of detail, and everything has to be as top as possible regarding accuracy and everything that has to do with that. Okay, so from my side, I finished my part. So it's time now for Florin to take the wheel. So Florin, you can take the wheel from now on with your presentation. And guys, feel free always to throw your questions on Q&A so we can answer them in the end. So Florin, it's up to you now. Can you hear us, Florin?
To make yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, everything is okay.
Is everything okay, Mike?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Good,
yes.
Good. I think we are...
sorry, you mute your microphone. Now we can hear you. No, it's okay. It's okay. Don't touch it now. It's okay. It's okay now. Now it's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah. So we are all in the same situation from one point of view. We have been, staying at home for a period of time. We are going back to work now, or some of us has already started, and we have a lot of things that we're mostly concerned about, like efficiency because of the extra time we have to spend on things, because of the extra money we have to spend on PPEs, etc. And we have a lot of restrictions as well in terms of what we do. So many people, I think, at this point are wondering, why don't we just stick to the essential, no? And just do the essential, because usually in crisis, this is how it goes. And this is one way to see it. However, to be honest, I don't know how other people are, but I cannot just, go. I cannot continue in this profession by doing less than I did before. It's just and of thinking. So then the challenge and the hypothesis becomes very simple. We don't want to lose quality to decrease the things that we were doing before. We also don't want to increase the cost, right? In terms of charge patients more, because it's a difficult time, not just for us, it's for everybody right now. So then the only thing left in the middle is to find a balance by increasing the efficiency and by maybe rethinking a couple of things. And actually, this might be also an opportunity for people who see it in this way, because you can create some protocols that otherwise would have been difficult to do. And before I start and to talk about the actual dentistry, I will show you a little bit what we have been busy with in this patients. As Spiros introduced, I am involved in the Smilecloud project for quite a while now. And in the last 2 months, we took a turn to make like a COVID response package, where we aim to provide people the things which in reality also we feel that are needed, the things that decrease the downtime, and the things that will make us more, let's say, the bed for efficient workflows. And I will mention like 4 things, which I will briefly mention, then I focus on one of them. A couple of things that we introduced, and I think this is the biggest change right now. We introduced the Smilecloud Passport, which is a free patient app, where imagine you do any type of consultation today, and consultation in 2020 usually ends up with records like photos, videos, x-rays, scans, intraoral scans, face scans, doesn't matter. All of these things, the patients can have it in one place, plus all the records that come with it, and the communication that links them to the team. It's very nice because you know very well how it is when you do all of these things, and then right now, because of regulation, you cannot send emails, then you don't want to be using USB drives and CDs. And now it's very comfortable that at the end of the consultation, the patient leaves with in his control. It's of course compliant to data regulation, and you can access from any browser, speaking any device that has a modern browser. Another nice thing is, as a patient, you control all of these things. You have real-time control.
Sorry, Florin. Something
over who
something
does
is
what
muting
with your data.
Sorry, Florin. Something is muting your microphone all the time. Can you check your microphone? Something is muting it. I don't know if it's something, the cable is tilted or something. I don't know. Now it's okay. I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to touch it. Okay.
Okay.
So you have real-time control over the data, and you can connect very easy with a dentist or a treatment team. And another nice thing with this for the patients is that all the forms that you have to...
Now again, it's your microphone. Can you try something? Sorry, people, just a technical difficulty. We can fix it. Okay.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, now it's perfect.
Okay, I'm not touching anything, so I hope it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. Proceed. Yes. Proceed.
Paperwork. We give on the dentist side the ability to have all this paperwork. You can edit them, you can brand them, and then you can send them in one click to your phone and update anytime without losing time. So this is nice. And you as a dentist, if you are a Smilecloud user, you actually, your library, your database is going to be of the passports of the patients you treat. So it's a nice ecosystem where all the data is connected around the data, because at least in digital dentistry, we cannot do anything without the data. And this is a very nice all-in-one solution which solves the problem with regulation, easy access, communication, having everything in one place, the kind of things that we wanted to have for a long time. So these things aside, now let's talk a little bit also about the design part. And I think it's best I explain a little bit, then I can do even a quick demo, because it's very easy. I'll do an Alt-Tab and show a couple of things. But as an idea, all the process, like we said, starts from data. Once you have the data, and again, with the people working and the patient, then in digital dentistry, modern design workflows are all library-based. for obvious reasons. Libraries are the, let's say, the virtual IKEA of restorative dentistry. Chunks of information in bigger pieces, and this fundamentally changes the design process, because design in analog would be the atomic element of design would be knowledge, right? You have knowledge, and then you have to transfer it with your experience, manuality, your skill set, ultimately physical object like a wax up or a restoration. However, whenever you work with libraries, the fundamental unit of design changes tooth shape. And the best example here is if we relate to dentures. If we relate to dentures, where you have like first you have to define a restorative space, and you do that with the wax streams, and the actual plastic teeth, right? And you use that to create the design of a denture, right? By respecting both the aesthetic principles and the functional principles involved. So more or less, digital dentistry has a lot in common with, at least in theory, with how dentures work, because the advantage when what you have when you do a denture is that you have an empty space there, and you can easily put whatever you want. And whenever you do anything digital, again, it's a virtual space, which means, again, you can do whatever you want virtually. So design fundamentally changes to these two steps. You have like a 2D step and a 3D step in design, just like in architecture. In all my presentations, I make a lot of comparisons with architecture because it's a very similar thinking process.
So, Florin, can you share your screen? You haven't shared your screen. Okay, sorry. Okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. Now you can share it. Okay, let's begin. Okay.
Everything.
Yeah, everything's okay.
If anything is not working properly.
Okay.
Okay. So the idea here is very simple. What we do in a smile design process, what we aim to do is to select, again, those 10 or 12 teeth shapes and relate them to the face. That is what you're gonna do in the first step. You do that in the first step because the first step you just need to communicate with the patient to understand if he or she is willing to do the process, and only after you get the consent you go to the next steps of integrating that and actually planning or executing procedures. In the first step you need to, just like an architect, to make like a project and to be able to render it, to visualize it to the patient. And what we do here is, again, we use like a face and an intraoral photo that we synchronize in the software, and then we're going to establish some key parameters, such as curve, or you can see here papilla points, line angles, things which are relevant for the project, which is quite a broad topic on itself, but nothing very fancy or complicated. Most of these things for a dentist are intuitive, or for a technician. And then as you establish these parameters, what will happen is the software turns into like a real-time search engine, which searches through 3D libraries, renders them on the face, and also you can download any of these unique compositions that you see here. You see my screen, right? Spiros?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Mike, everything okay? Okay.
Yes, everything is okay.
So yeah. It's nice because you can see tooth shapes, and we're not talking about the traditional library where you have this set or this set or this set. Every time you use this tool, you will have like a different set of teeth. Usually the only place where you have actual symmetry will be in the centrals, but everything else will come from, you know, different sources, different models, let's say. So the nice thing is you can render as many of these as you want, and you can use this tool to actually make your consultation real time and visual. Because I'll give you some practical examples. I'm not arguing that this should or should not replace the mockup as we do it. No, that's not the point. It's an alternative tool that's highly useful in many scenarios. And you will see that those scenarios are actually the majority of scenarios. Why? Because mockups, for example, we can properly do when the case is additive or borderline additive. If you have reductive cases, if you have ortho cases, if you have edentulous patients, all of these cases are difficult to create a mockup. And let's say even if you do create a mockup in those cases, many times you're in the situation where, let's say, you do a mockup, and which is basically a scientific subjective guess, which you think that will work for that patient. You do it, call the patient in, and then the patient says, yes, but I was thinking about something else. And then what do you have to do? You have two options. You can either go and manually start to change inside the mouth, which does not really work very well most of the time, or you reschedule and you do the process again. Is that you have, first of all, you can mitigate all that subjectivity risk of not beginning. You talk to the patient, say you like this or this or this or this. And when the patient says, I like this, then you know exactly how you're going to do your design. And the follow-up on this is very simple. You can download, there are STL files coming from natural teeth composition like you see on the screen. And then if you're gonna, whenever you click download, you will get like a picture of whatever composition you wanted and the STL files in relation to this design. Whenever you open them in any free software, like let's say MeshMix, you will see that they are already like in 3D in the position, which in a normalized position, let's say. Which means from this point on, it's a very simple equation for design. You have your initial scan plus your selected library, which is a library that already your patient told you, I like this. Which, because of the way that the software searches the library, fits on your project. That's the main goal. Smilecloud is a search tool. What it does in reality, it searches the right ones, and if you use those, what will happen is that you will minimize the amount of because if you have to wax a lot on top of these natural libraries, first of all, they're nowhere near natural at the end. Second of all, you're wasting time and you're losing predictability, and you might end up in the situation where the patient tells you, yeah, but I want to change this and that because it's different than the first one, right? So,
sorry, Florin, people are asking also that is it really necessary that your technician needs to have the software, or I explained that your technician can access also in the software. I think you're going to show that. Is that correct?
No, it's not necessary for the technician to have the software. I mean, you can go in and download the libraries and for him, but it's just more convenient for you if he has the software, because I will show you why. Let me just open a browser. You see my screen still? Everything's okay?
Yes, everything's okay, yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna do like a fast demo now. So you see, for example, this is my cases here, basically everything, my whole professional life. You can see like 2,000 cases that I carry with me all the time. And I've been showing you this case. And if I open this case, you can see what I have here. First of all, I have all the collection of resources that is related to this case. And because you can see, this is a case we did during a course. You can see before we had the pandemics, we could be very relaxed and do hands-on courses like this, which I think we all miss and will be missing for quite a while now. Anyways, you have all the resources here. And of course, I can search them by whatever I want. And here I have, like I told you, the one thing today with. Now, when I go to the design part, let's say this design, yeah. The only thing I need to do is go here and press this button and I download. Or even easier, I can just add the email of my technician or whoever's gonna do the case. I add them here, and the benefit of doing that is that they will see everything that's in the case, not just this specific part of the case. They see all the chat that's in the case, because every case they have all the information, because sometimes when you design, yes, use 2 pictures. Initial documentation in case. We have the scans, we have the portrait pictures, we have intraoral picture. Like I said, you design on 2 pictures, but you have to see many other things which are important, right? And instead of sending all this information, like scattered around, we just create this treatment team around the data. Here, and you can preview it and you can download the specific library. And if I want to create like a new version of this design, I can just duplicate it like I do now. And now I want to show it as a search tool. Like I said, here you basically have a couple of steps. You can see it's like 5 steps to do a design, which makes it quite fast as a tool. But the most important one is here. When you define this restorative space, and as you can see here, you define where you're going to put your zeniths, and you see also the face, because these 2 grids are synchronized. So for example, here I want to reduce a little bit the gummy smile. Then is the incisal edge. For example, here I know she has a little bit of wear on this central, so I know that lengthening them might not be a very smart idea functionally, so I'm going to keep this incisal edge. Then you have the proportions, and then you have things like line angles, just like technicians would draw it with a pencil. Yeah, you can go in and do the same exercise now. And this will generate your search criteria for the. I'll give you an example. Let's assume that here we're going to place an implant for some reason in this central. What will happen is we're going to lose tissue, right, from the papillas. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yes, yes, I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so when I do this and I search, you're going to receiving, they all take into account this specific search criteria, which means whenever I'm going to use these libraries, a lot of time to, wax them and alter their shapes. It's an iteration, reduces a lot of the alterations you need to do on the designs. And you can see, you can go here, or you can go in this view and discussing your patient what he or she wants, you know. And then when the patient tells you, I like this or this, let's say the patient is interested in this design.
Florin,
save.
People are asking also about the costing per case. What would be the cost for a clinician about per case? After you finish that,
there is no cost. So this libraries and everything is included in the subscription. This is a software that has like a subscription per month. It's like 20 euros, the basic account, and there's no cost on top of that. The only thing is you have an option. So everything that I show you right now, I'm talking about the libraries, is free. You also have like an on-demand option where, let's say you don't want to be doing the 3D and you want a lab to do it for you, you can pay per case and then you get it done and just download the file. But in terms of using the libraries and what I'm showing you now and all of these tools, there is no additional cost.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Theodora, so, I think we had your question answered, I think, of how you can transfer everything directly without touching anything, and you just ask a biometric design and you receive everything you did in 2D in 3D. So it's up to you what you would like to do.
Yeah. Okay. If you just want to be the dentist and don't want a headache, that's like an option for that. But we're not enforcing that type of business. That's just one end of the stick for some people that are interested. Now the idea is, like I told you, imagine here you have the design, what the patient wants. Here you have the communication directly with the patient. You have like a chat channel. Normally, let's say if the patient tells me I want to change this or that, what do I have to do? I have to go to my technician, transfer this information every single time. Whereas I prefer that all of this communication is in the same place, because when we start the case, the first thing that we do is we put in the case the people that will be involved. From the technician to the surgeon to the receptionist to the whoever has even the communication along the way, and everything is in one place. I think this is crucial, because then you just go and on your phone you have notifications with everything that's happening around in your patients. It's invaluable to the presentation. So at this point, there's two types of designs you can do, right? In an ideal scenario, you would have an additive case, and then you do a wax up, you prep, you finish. But in real life, purely additive cases don't really exist. They are very, very, very rare. At best, you would have like small areas where you need to reduce, and most of the case is additive. Which means you always have like two ways you can design, depending on where you position your morphology in sagittally, because in horizontal and vertical, you will place it just like you designed it on the picture. But in terms of sagittal, how buccal that morphology will be depends on your initial situation. And what normally, step one, you want to get what? What is the first thing you need in a case? You need consent, right? The patient to accept, correct?
Yes, indeed.
So actually, that's the easiest and the fastest way. Or you do it like virtually for you to have a reference, and then you turn it into 3D and you create like this type of motivational design, which is on top of the existing morphology, which is more buccal, and you transfer this experience before and after for patients. Okay. Normally, whenever you have, what is the rule of thumb here? If your case is like this type of case, which is additive or borderline additive, this is the best way you can present to a patient, of course, because it's just a better experience, right? If your case is reductive, it doesn't make any sense to do this, right? Or if your patient, if you feel, because we all feel after a certain point if we are dealing with an easy patient or with a difficult patient in terms of expectations. If I have a patient that I feel is going to be difficult and is going to be, you know, like not knows what he wants and all that, I prefer not to waste time and resources. And then I go virtual, ask him, okay, you want this? And then we start the process, okay? But the point is that either way you do it, you're going to need to get consent before you can reduce. And then you can put the final design inside the mouth. You can see the final design is the one that has the red area sticking out. But before I can place that in the mouth, I need the acceptance from the patient so I can take a burr and reduce those areas and also reduce tissue. So either way you do it, after you get consent from these components, you're gonna create everything else as a guide that is required for you to finish the case. Things like the soft tissue guide, which is like a very simple to make tissue reduction guide, which is not necessarily just to prevent canting, but it's to understand exactly how you're going to shape the cervical part of the teeth so that you copy the library which embodies the design you promised the patient.
Florin,
So
do you provide
this? Yes.
Do you provide this as a service also, in case somebody would like to order it?
So all of these things are on-demand stuff that people can order, yes. But like I said, the key is, so once you have the library, and once you, I think it's very easy also to do it yourself. It's just a matter of preference. These are all things that people can order. So in this case, after we did the tissue, then we did the bone, we did it flapless. There's, long story short here, there are two ways you can do the bone, with a flap or without a flap. Whenever bone is thin, we always like to do it without a flap. The huge advantage is that you can do the surgery and prep at the same time. And this we did 100% of the time in courses, because the course was 3 days. And we would always select like cases that have the bone, a good indication for this. So the second question would be, if I make the final design, right? Because you can go like very fast to the ideal design, but how do you know how much to reduce before you can transfer it in? Long story short, this slide here says it all. In the beginning, I would just, get a model from the initial overlap in the mouth with a bisacryl opposite of the color of the teeth. And then you would see different colors where you have to bisacryl, and whatever you see like teeth are very white, that's the areas you need to reduce because it's sticking out of the bisacryl. As you get more experienced, then I open the file of the patient and I check this picture, and I just go in and cut. I mean, it's nothing very complicated. I just have to look, for example, at this lateral that you have to reduce from the mesial line angle, okay? You want to do it with bisacryl or just visual, it's up to you. Once you do this, you can transfer the library in the ideal position. And then after you do this, then it's normal dentistry. You prep according to, the drills from this point on. But the main thing here is you can see the sequence. Whenever you do like a motivational design and you don't have an additive case, you always need two designs. The first issue is to get to properly help the patient to visualize the end result and to give you the acceptance to do the clinical procedures which are invasive. After you get the consent, then you're going to use the second design. What's the only difference between them? Sagittal position of the library. You're using the same library, which means, again, if you don't have a very reductive situation, the scaling effect will be very small. Obviously, when you go more buccal, everything scales. But if you don't, let's say, if you are not doing it in extreme cases, this should never be a problem. And then what we do is we copy this design and we mill it using staining and glazing. And this is pretty much, let's say, the happy path of how you do this type of simple case. Normally you do like in time for this case is 2 days. You have 1 day where you do the surgery prep and do provisionals, and then the second time when you bond. And of course, it's all based, actually 3, because you need 1 time the patient comes and you take all the records. But the nice thing is you're spending very little time and you're very, very precise in what you promise. So you see the library which the patient selects virtually. Download that library, we functionalize that in 3D, and here there's so much more we can talk about things you can use on top to make this even better as a process. Things like technologies such as geo tracking and stuff like that. But the main story remains. You're choosing a library virtually first, no resource, no wasted time, no nothing, easy communication, easy way to go back and forth. Once it's decided, then you go First step, download the library, put it on top of the morphology first to have a motivational mockup. You can do that in a free software if you want. It doesn't matter because at that point, the morphology being on top of tissue, there is no relevance of anything else but relation to the face in first step and acceptance. Once you get acceptance, then you go in a dental software, and then you have to put everything together with the interarch relationship, planning, how much you have to reduce and this type of things. So this is the first case I want to show you, and now I want to just go a little bit faster through a second case, which is more difficult. And again, here, it doesn't, the case being more difficult, it doesn't really change the way that you work. This is the nice part. We still have screen, mic working, Spiros, everything okay? Yes? Okay. I'll assume everything works. Let me just... Okay. Can you guys hear me? Type something on the chat because I don't realize. Okay, I can see questions on the chat. Yes, OBJ and PLY are allowed to be imported. Do you guys hear me? Okay, yes, okay. I'll go back and just this case. So here again, you can see much more difficult case in terms of complexity. You have series of issues, dark roots, occlusal problems, aesthetic problems, obviously, many things that we need to fix. So here you can have a view of the case. And in this type of case, imagine doing a mock-up in this case. What are you going to do? Are you going to try to mock up this case? I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's very, very difficult, right? It's very difficult because you have, first of all, the teeth position does not help you at all. And there are some things like you can correct easily and some others very difficult. Of course, even with all the tricks in the book, like pink composite and painting teeth and all that, these cases are difficult to mock up. And in the patient that you have an idea of where you need of where this should go is, you know, the same like her desire, let's say. So in this type of cases, the approach is slightly different. The approach is you make your consultation visual. You're talking and you're using the software to explain what would happen if you do this, what would happen if you do that. I can easily go in this type of case and, you know, play with the position of teeth in terms of millimeters of compensating or not compensating the gummy smile, let's say, which is very difficult to do with a mock-up. And of course, or I can do this also the adapted to today's situation. I can do this over, you know, over internet and just share it with the patient, and then they just have this exact view on their phone, so they can share with their family and all that. Bottom line is you need to get consent first. Mock-up or with a tool like this, it's up to you, but consent is number one prerequisite before you start treating a patient. We got the consent, then we went into ortho. I work with Johnny Barbour here, and his approach is a very healthy one. He first deprogrammed the patient automatic state before actually starting to move teeth around, and all the ortho was planned and transferred with indirect bonding for the surgery, which was included in the planning. So long story short, I received the case back. It looked like this. There's still a lot of issues to deal with, but it's already a manageable case prosthetically because the skeletal problem is solved. And now, again, like I told you, I can just go back and I can download the library that initially I was talking to the patient and do the design. In this, how we integrate everything in one project. So what you see here is we have the scans of the patient, upper, lower. We have all the motion of the patient that we got through using a technology called Mojo, where we record all the functional movements of the patient. In this type of cases, I'm not using an articulator. If I get the patient to be asymptomatic, I will just copy the function of the patient. If my patient would have symptoms right now, or if I need to do like extensive changes in morphology, then I would just use this data and transfer in an articulator. But here, I'm just going to copy the function of the patient and change the aesthetics. So I take the library from Smilecloud, and then here we're gonna so you can see, and you can create your ideal design. You can virtually reduce from both teeth and tissue, and you place your And then you can see that now we still have the one side, we still have some contacts that are, very few. So at this point, we take a library also for the lower. Here I use a generic library from Exocad. Technician for this case is Ioana Pop. I think she's one of the best technicians for digital that I know, basically.
Florin, we have a question about the material. What material are you using for the veneers? Sorry, we can't hear you. Repeat again.
Empress CAD.
Okay.
Empress CAD Multi.
Okay,
Empress CAD
perfect.
Multi from Ivoclar.
Okay.
And the first thing is you adjust the static position. Where you can see where this is the only things that we're doing in the design. And I'm always morphing more the lower than the upper if possible. Never touching the buckle because I don't want to change the shape. We're just slightly morphing the cusp to fossa in a better position. After each movement and adjust. So you see, for example, here we have an interference. So you can just go adjust. And you have this very nice module from Exocad with the jaw, where we can do all of these changes. Project finish before you actually start the patient, and you're gonna. This is like the final project.
People are asking which are the full
print this.
Which are the full crowns here and which are the veneers and why? One of the questions that we have for this case.
I think if you wait like 2 seconds, you're gonna see the preps, and then
okay, yeah,
you will see for yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the thing is like this: when you design, it doesn't matter if it's a crown or a veneer, right? Because you're designing the final, like the future tooth, and you decide if it's a crown or integrity that you have and on the substrate that you have. And for that, you need to remove the old restorations. But before that, I printed everything. I just wanted to check. So I transferred the library, moved everything slightly more buckled, printed, and transferred in the mouth. So I make sure that everything is okay. And you can see here, there's a little bit of canting according to my design that you have to fix. And this is how also some tricks how you can make a mock-up look nice. So we got here like some pink composite to block the tissue, and then you get like a black marker to paint the area that you need to reduce. And then when the patient accepts and you check that everything's okay, then you cut the tissue based on your design. And then I do the bone, flapless. I check with the perio probe, my printed model. I take the probe and I always measure here on my model, on this model, and using a silicone index to the future zenith. This is how you check, very easy after surgeries. And then you remove the existing restorations. So I think here you can get an answer already. You're gonna have crowns in the anteriors, right? You're gonna have veneer and tabletops in the posteriors, basically. So here we still have a couple of issues. Color of the substrate, because we're going to use monolithic material. So here when you don't layer, it can be challenging. And this is something very nice, which I will show you today, that is going to be published in QDT 2021. It's a technique that we have been using ever since. In this case is already, I think, 1 year old. So at this point, what we did is when I prepped, I did something, I tried something different. And like I said, this technique we have been using since, because what are to block this are a couple. First, you can use like opaque composite to like that, because it's messy. Okay, it's if you want to be very precise in that, you have to put rubber dam when you do the build-ups. Then by the time you take the rubber dam off with the clamps and everything, it's going to be a complete mess. Rubber dam, you're never really confident that everything's okay. There's a second thing. Third thing is you just over prep and then you do copings, right? What we did here is I prep like 2 chamfers. One where I want to put like my zenith, and a second one where ferrule effect starts, like 2 millimeters from my final zenith, not to affect as much as possible the structural integrity of the teeth. And I took an impression, because in none of the pictures is properly, I took an impression for didactic reasons, but I scanned the case anyway. So this is just to show you how the prep architecture is. Then I put the provisional, send the patient home, and as the technicians, I asked them to do the following thing. I asked them to mill the final crown in a transparent PMMA, and inside of the transparent PMMA, chimney for the material excess to come out. And you can already guess what this does. You have the final design on the outside and the final abutment design on the inside. There's nobody better in the world to design a abutment than a technician. No dentist is better than a technician in knowing where the space should be distributed properly. So here, because they have the tools virtually, they can do this. And you can see you have like a very good fit for this. Transfer, you have like etching, bonding. I silaned the metal, and then I put like opaque resin, like a white resin I found in the lab. And this is like heated composite, heated opaque, like dentin composite that you put inside and then you put in the right position. And then like you take a burr and you cut it and pop it open, because it's not going to come out. And this is what you get. You get like a very beautiful, nice abutment that not only blocks your color, but will have like uniform thickness, which is very important for the value and the uniformity of the restorations. So at this point, you can see I still have in the laterals the area where I didn't touch for the ferrule that I managed in a different way. I mean, the technician managed by staining inside. This area you can use like an inside stain. Here in the picture is more than needed. Again, just for didactic reasons, you have to put just a little bit. And then the last thing we have to do is to manage the tissue, the color of the tissue. Did the trying and everything was okay. Here we had Gustavo and Marcelo Giordani. They took like a graft. And there's an entire conversation here about what type of soft tissue graft is indicated for here. But basically, to make long story short, you need like reaching collagen graft that doesn't grow in this area, because you don't need volume, you just need quality to block like a nice texture of the tissue. At the time of the bonding, we make the graft. So if you see the way we're working is we prep and crown lengthen at the same time, and we bond and graft at the same time. Both of these things have one thing in common as a principle. They rely on something which we all use, prosthetic healing. What is the best healing on an implant? Is the final crown and the final zirconia abutment. For teeth is any different, it's the same. If you have possibility and the is, you know, fast, and that's what you can do with digital dentistry. You can, first of all, from the middle of the treatment to the end of the treatment, where logically it should be. I know this contradicts quite a few decades of literature, but I'm not worried about that, because I'm more than anything, I trust what I see and the results that we have been seeing in the last years. And this thing I learned from Eric, very big mentor, Eric Van Duren. We first did it with implants, then with teeth, then with basically anything. So we are again for a lot of efficiency in, I think, in a treatment of the case. This is how the case looks when the patient leaves. This is when we remove the sutures. You can see how nice the color has been managed in a polarized light. Then we did the lowers. The lowers is veneers. And this is upper lower. And I think this is 6 months post-op. This, I think, is there's a lot of learning points in a case like this. But the biggest one, the biggest two, let me go back so I can see the interface here. The biggest two learning curves, the biggest two learning points are the following. Approach is suitable for the period to come. Efficiency. Second is, again, it's all about the simple things. I mean, these things that I'm showing, in essence, we're not talking about the actual technology. They are simple and logical things. They make sense. Yes?
Yep.